Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Spincast. We are diving back into high school esports. Joining me today is Travis Witt, the general manager, and Logan Downing. He is a graduated captain/player of Racine Park High School in Wisconsin, in the East, and of course, both of those involved in the esports program there. So, without further ado, Travis, Logan, go ahead and introduce yourselves. Tell the audience where your passion in esports started, and kind of how that took you to where you currently are now in your different positions at Racine Park. Now, Travis, I'll let you go ahead and go first into the GM.
Absolutely. So I got into esports kind of in college, not in anything in a truly organized fashion. It was just a couple of guys from some local Minnesota schools, a bunch of D3 programs that kind of just wanted to get together and play, some games, mostly Overwatch and Rocket League, over our small community in St. Paul and Minneapolis. So we played a few games there, very, very low key, but it was kind of opening my eyes to, hey, this is happening on a bigger scale, and there's really a need for it. I moved back to Wisconsin. I'm originally from Racine, and I moved back about 3 years ago to start teaching at Park. And when I started, my main goal was, hey, we're going to start an esports program here. There really wasn't any in the Midwest. There was a few that were just getting started. One of the schools in Racine, Walden, had a League of Legends team that played at a national level, but it was very, kind of disorganized, or not disorganized, but disassociated from the rest of kind of what the city was doing. And so I decided we're going to start to get to work. Luckily, I had some great support from some administration, James O'Hagan, really who has past experience, putting together some teams. And we kind of worked as a district and ended up putting out five schools who had 5 teams. And, it kind of took off from there. I started as a football coach when I was at Park, and it kind of put me in a great position to, coach in the esports realm and figure out how do I reach these kids that want competition, that want to have this opportunity, but just, didn't have the avenue to do so. And luckily we started playing with the Wisconsin High School Esports Association 2 years ago. We finished up our second season this last year, and starting our third season this year. We're looking to expand to a national level, play a little bit of some NASEF tournaments, start playing in that league, and really expanding. Right now our program's at about 34 kids. So we're really, we hope to get a lot bigger. So right now we're only focusing on the competitive side, but we want to grow it to a little bit more casual level, add some more games, and start with some shoutcasting, start with some managing, some things that the kids can do where, again, if they're not inclined to be a competitive gamer, they can still be part of our team and contribute and really understand the realm of esports.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of expanding on that point, that's something that is, I think, so readily available with esports because it's so easy to kind of get involved into the, subsidiary kind of jobs, other positions besides playing, right? Even playing professional esports is even harder than traditional sports, right? Because the rosters are way smaller. Most of the time, it's only about 10% of what a traditional roster would be. But with the casting and producing and streaming and content creators or video editors, graphic designs, all very centric points to developing these massive events and programs. That's what everyone needs. So giving that pieces at a young age and starting those skills is absolutely awesome to see. But Logan, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us where your passion started, kind of how that led you through your time at Racine Park into your current position.
All right, so I started off esports, like I wasn't even planning on joining the team originally. All my friends, like there was announcements, Mr. Wood had announcements over it, and a bunch of my friends, they all hopped on. They're like, all right, this is cool. And I was like, I don't know. I don't really want to do this. But on the day the application was due, they were all like, you got to do this, man. And I'm like, we need one more team member. And I'm like, all right. So I drive home. I immediately get the application filled up by my parents. I bring it all the way back on the same day. And then we had our first game that day. So I was like, oh, wow, this is like really, really fast. So we played down at Not Your Parents' Basement, which is a gaming lounge in Racine. And I play a lot of, I'm a gamer. I've always have been. I play Smash, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And so, I signed up for the Smash team and I'm like, this is going to be awesome because like I'm playing with all my friends. This is really chill. And when we go down to the basement, I've never been too athletic. So I'm assuming this is what like an athlete would feel, but I felt like this rush and I was like, this is awesome. And I really, really started to like connect with all my friends even more. And there was a few people I didn't really know that well, and we got really, really close through esports. And I thought, like, I got to do this next year. I got to keep going with this because, like, it really opened up a lot of, like, friendships and just skills I never thought I had, leadership skills, because we really had to connect as a team, which I've never really had to do before. I've never been in traditional sports or anything like that. It never really fit me. So being able to be part of a team, I think that's what really drove me to like esports. And it's all about the friendships you make,
Absolutely.
It's not even like the competitive part, I think, is amazing. And just getting that ability to compete in something, I think, is a good feeling for many people that many people don't have. Because, I've never competed in anything. And after I made it to state, actually, I was like, I'm at state right now. And it was like so exhilarating. And I feel like if this became more open to more schools, I think a lot of people would flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think, one point you hit on there that's so important to so many kids and so many parents to realize is that not everyone fits into traditional sports, right? They might not be the most athletic person, because obviously you kind of have to just either be gifted or naturally, ability to run fast or jump high or lift a lot of weights or whatnot. But almost every single person that doesn't really fit that bill loves esports, right? They dive into it at a young age and they're like, what can I do more with it? And, previously, either mainstream media's kind of shut that out or said, the negative kind of stereotypes associated with that. But in reality, like, no, give them that platform and see what students do. Like in all these podcasts I've done, both, at the high school level and collegiately, it's so incredible to see where these communities start to exist. And then you see them just automatically dive into the players and the students dive into making their own teams and getting them, making themselves get better. And then also helping their teammates improve as well. And then all of a sudden you have this tight knit community and team that develops all those skills that, they might miss out on if these programs didn't exist. So that kind of leads me to my next question is, going off those talking points Logan just gave us, this is for you, Travis, is from that, more managerial role, the leader role, as the teacher, what have you experienced or seen that really kind of sets the program apart from that community, right? Where you see this great community kind of develop, and what have you seen the students kind of really buy into and be able to take that platform and, grow within themselves and those around them?
Yeah, that's a great question because I say this is my saying for everything, right? So since I coach football as well, it's kind of like whether we're throwing a football or we're taking an objective in Overwatch, we're teaching the same things. We're teaching kids how to compete. We're teaching them how to deal with adverse situations, facing adversity and figuring out how do I overcome that? How do I lose? How do I win? I think competition in general, whether it's traditional sports or, something like esports, it's the opportunity to kind of put a microcosm of, life as a roller coaster up and down. How do we deal with those situations in a kind of a micro sense? And that was kind of how I approached, the esports team when we first started. I had a bunch of guys who wanted to do it because they had past interests, so we started putting together teams and finding guys. And, and I approached it from the aspect of, how would I, if I was running the football program, how would I run the football program, right? And it was kind of, I mirrored it that way. Obviously, over time, we had to switch a little bit because it wasn't the same. But, we just started, we focused on community. We focused on communication. We focused on teamwork. I took the kids out of their comfort zone. So we started going to the weight room and doing, just general health things. I'm not making them lift a lot of weight or doing those things, but, being active and sweating just a little bit together. We started doing practices in a different way where, playing guys out of their role and, in their traditional role and getting them to kind of step into each other's shoes. We had DPS guys playing tanks and tanks playing healers and, figuring out how to, communicate when you're not really worried about the game mechanics. Because, unfortunately, it's myself and one other guy running a program of 35 kids. We can't focus on game mechanics, so we have to focus on, how do we build a community with this team? How do we make sure that they know how to communicate properly in this space? And how do we make sure that they can compete and get everything they can get out of that? And it started kind of like that. We'd run practice and we'd do this thing, we'd do our thing and we'd play games, and we started off having a lot of success right away just because of the natural ability of our players. And then it started to turn into a thing where it's like every lunch period was taken up with kids in my room, and it's like, okay, like that's cool. And then it really started to become a natural thing of like, all of my free time during the day is team time. So they would come in and, whether we're watching film or we're, scouting out our opponent of that week, we really started to kind of be a tight-knit group. And I saw a lot of dedication from these kids that I haven't seen from traditional athletes in my coaching career, which has been awesome. Kids who were really struggling in the classroom, kids who, never really put forth a ton of effort in school. We're starting to put in hours and hours and hours of practice outside of their role. The interesting thing about our program is when we started, none of our kids had PCs at home. So they would only, they could only practice during our practice time. They could only play during our time. They, some of them had experience on a console, but I would say like 85% of our kids never played the game before. They just had friends who played it, or they thought it was an interesting thing to be a part of, so they joined. And when you're running that kind of program where your kids don't have a lot of experience, you got to teach them, how do I get the most value out of my time with them? And it seemed to me that the teaching communication and building a tight-knit community where our kids felt comfortable to try their best and possibly fail and lose together and support each other in a positive way, that seemed like the best thing to do with the time that we had. And it really kind of set this great base where our kids and our leaders and our captains, Logan included, with our other captain, Devin Cortes, who was a NAECAD All-American this year in Overwatch. Those were kids who, when they first came in, if you asked them to lead a group of people to do something, it would probably be the most train wreck of a situation possible. And now they're leading teams and commanding, their squad to do what they need to do. And seeing that transition over a really short, time, 1 to 2 years, has been, it brings me a lot of joy, because you see these kids really flourishing in a situation that they never had the opportunity to do before. And their parents are seeing the differences. Their teachers are seeing the differences. The community are seeing their differences, because they're just putting in, they're putting in a lot of effort to something they really love to do. And it's been pretty successful for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that there's nothing more beautiful than when you see a student take their passion and ambition and then apply that to something that they are passionate about, right? Because if you wake up every day wanting to do something and wanting to get better at it, chances are you're probably going to become pretty good at it pretty quickly, right? Because you want to strive for perfection and strive to the best that you can. Then also, when you give them that community as well and the team, then they're going to bring those up, those around them up as well, which is just absolutely great.
Right.
So important for students at the younger age. Kind of moving into my next question, we talked a little bit earlier about the casual versus the competitive scene, right? Which is kind of like a very interesting kind of duality as esports, is that you have your casual gamers, you have your competitive gamers, and there's nothing wrong with either of them, but there kind of seems to be a divide in some games, especially games that are geared for esports or not geared for esports, and all of a sudden you see some complaints like, oh, you're balancing the game for the pros or for the esports, the competitive people, or vice versa. So Logan, you can go ahead and answer this first. Kind of like, in your experience, what do you hope to see kind of become as you bring, more of a casual community, or bring the casual gamers into the program, into the club or whatnot? And, what do you hope to see kind of gain from that community perspective and that team perspective as well?
Well, I don't want them to lose the casual sense of the game, because I feel like once it gets too competitive, it just becomes kind of stressful, especially at the high school level. And you don't want that kind of intense ball of stress all the time. But I feel like if there's like a fine line between casual and competitive that we're building up to potentially a college to professional level, that would be, very strong. I personally played at a national tournament at Smash and Splash over in Wisconsin Dells, and it was very intense. Like I was sweating because I had to sit here in a room with 160 people, and if I lost like 2 games, I'm out. So it was the idea of like, you have to really connect casual and competitive together to make it fun. It needs to be fun. And I just want people to have fun playing their game overall. And when I watch all these pros play, no matter what, even though they are playing professionally, they're having fun. They're having a good time. And I think that's what's important, because I saw a couple schools during the school year, they were kind of like really pushing their team to be super competitive and stuff. And some of the kids just weren't having the best of times. Like I talked to a few of them and they're like, yeah, like we're just trying to win. I'm like, just try to have fun, man, And I'd like to see more people just casual gamers who may not be amazing at the game or who may only play like an hour a day because, it's a way to pass time. But I'd really like to see them join and maybe get a little competitive sense, but have a good time.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like retaining that, feeling of having a good time, having the casual nights, the community nights where you sit down and, maybe play Smash for fun, a little roulette tournament or something, but nothing that's, national tournament or anything. Travis, do you have anything else to add to that on, that kind of dilemma, or what do you hope to see kind of melded together over the next year or so?
Yeah, so the goals really for the program is to grow, right? We want to reach as many kids as possible. Some kids are a little bit intimidated by kind of the way we've run the program so far, just the fact of we only focused on the competitive side. Mm-hmm. And it was, it's practice 3 days a week. We play every week, sometimes twice a week if we have reschedules. And it was it's an intense time commitment. Mm-hmm. The nice thing is that we're in the sweet spot right now. I think esports as a whole, and especially high school esports as a whole, where we're not really in athletic and we're not really in activity. So we're like right in the middle. So we share both of those. So we get to reap the benefits of both. Mm-hmm. And really that's where I hope to grow the casual side of this. It's like, can we build a community that has, multiple levels that, the kids who want to compete are competing. The kids who want to just come and play and have a good time are there. And there's plenty of crossover, right? If 1 week a kid wants to jump up and play some competitive game, then he gets to do that. Or someone wants to come down and just say like, this is stressful for me. I have something stressful going on this week, but I still want to be around. We just want to reach as many kids in the way that they need the opportunity. I think that's the issue with a lot of activities in athletics in high school is that there's a pretty big barrier to entry if you've never done it before. And especially if you're a 14-year-old kid and someone saying, here, try this new thing that you've never done before. And it's absolutely, this big terrifying endeavor. If we can make it as easy to get in as possible, that's the way we want. Because if someone joins the club as a casual gamer as a freshman, who's to say they're not going to be a great competitive gamer by the end of it? And we just want to give people the opportunity to see what esports really can be, because I think they all have this idea of what it is. And by getting more people in our doors and saying like, this is what we're doing, we want more people to come watch us play competitive. We want more people to be a part of part of this team and club, because we want to grow the esports as a whole, especially at the high school level, because I think it's really where the benefits come out the most. Teaching kids these competitive situations, but not even that, teaching kids how to communicate properly and problem solve. And games are the perfect avenue to do that. Mm-hmm. And if we can reach more kids with that, that's our goal. So that's really especially with remote learning now, we want to make as many games as accessible, kind of our umbrella as possible. Can we play from home? Can we, can we just have play nights? Can we have Minecraft builds? Can we have, can we start Fortnite tournaments? Can we start Rocket League tournaments? All these things that we can do from the comfort of our home. Mm-hmm. And really, really reach out to kids who need that socialization right now, especially, and need that community. So that's really the goal in the next year, whether we have an actual season or not, is to, still build our community as big as possible, reach as many kids as possible, and make sure that they understand that they have a place to kind of be themselves and grow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that touches on a lot of points that we've been discussing over the last 20 minutes or so, is really looking at it, that community sense that there is a place for everybody, right? Maybe you come in and you just want to do casual, like have a Minecraft or build off, right? Or, just play some Fortnite trios or quads and just squad up and have some fun, right? Mm-hmm. Try some, some janky stuff and see if you can't pull a win, or at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because you just have fun, right? Or kind of like we were talking about earlier, is like casting and streaming and producing, or like some game design or graphic design. You can do that in that esports space so easily, because it's so predominant in esports. All of those components kind of get mixed together to produce the big games and the big events and the big programs. So Absolutely. Like you can be involved and, really explore that creative side of yourself quite easily as well. So that's absolutely great to see. Kind of before we run out of time, we're kind of getting close to the end here. Thinking about one last question, maybe two, we'll see. What is, in both of your experiences, what's that next big change or big improvisation that we need to see for high school esports to really explode? Like we were talking about before we started recording, that high school esports is kind of like everywhere in these kind of like closed off communities almost. You see some national competitions, some, in some way or another, but not everyone's kind of exposed to it. It hasn't been taken as like a mainstream media type of, competition where everyone's like, oh, esports, I'm definitely going to do that. There's still that hesitation. There's still some of those stereotypes around it. So what needs to change or be improved on or added to really see high school esports go from where it is now in a great place to becoming a national phenomenon like you see football or basketball is at that high school level? And I'll let you go first, Travis.
Yeah. So, I mean, really it comes down to making it a normal thing, and that's just, we talk all the time, not only just in our school, but in our district about how do we redefine athletic culture? That's James O'Hagan's big thing. How do we figure out and share the message of what is an athlete and what is a competitive situation that is a valuable experience for a kid to have? And I think it just comes over time, and it's so hard because if you think about where, traditional sports are, we're, as an esports community, we're about 100 to 1,000 years behind, and it's just based on, just how things work. Yeah. And I think the big thing that we just need to focus on is opening up our doors for everybody. We've had, my best memory so far of the esports program is we went to state for Smash. Was that 2 years ago, Logan, with Vito's grandma? And one of our players brought his grandparents, and they had no idea what they were walking into. And over the day, as their grandson played through the tournament and did fairly well, the look on their faces changed from confusion to excitement to, at the end of the day, really understanding, whoa, this is a thing. And they don't understand Smash. They have no idea what was happening, but they kind of asked questions as they went. They figured out who their grandson was playing as on the screen, and they could follow along and say, kind of understand with the cheers of the crowd if he was doing well or not. But really, that's what it comes down to is how do we invite as many people as possible into our doors, and how do we show them that the benefits of this are way higher than the perceived the stereotypical negatives, right? We have so much, we got a wall to climb over before we could even talk about expanding it to this huge national thing, especially here in America, because, think about how many years of negative stereotypes we have to overcome yet about gaming and gamers and the experience. My college degree, not to get too deep into it, I know we're out of time, is on non-traditional mediums. So I talk about storytelling in video games and how the narrative aspect of video games is, just as valid as a traditional book. But think about how many minds you have to change when they're thinking about, video games cause violence, all these things that we know scientifically are not true. And it's just a big ladder to climb, and I think the best way to do that is one person at a time, inviting them to practices, inviting them to watch the stream, inviting them to a game, letting them sit down with one of our kids so that they can talk about, their experience and what it's like, and show that we're bringing people together. We're not tearing people apart.
Exactly. And that's one big theme in esports. We talk about it all podcast long is community, right?
Yeah.
And exposing anybody that, whether it's their son's playing or their daughter's playing or their friend's playing or their grandson or granddaughter's playing, yes, come be exposed to it. We'll help you, right? It's not this big scary thing. Obviously a lot of these games, when you watch them, if you have never seen them before, you're like, I have no idea what's happening, right?
Right.
But this is because they didn't grow up with it, right? If you
Right.
put football on and someone that's never seen football, they're gonna be like, I have no idea what's happening.
It's pretty
football.
nuts.
Yeah, football, you watch it when you're about 3 years old with your dad, right?
Right.
And hopefully in esports, I think that's changing with the next generation, but obviously you're gonna take some kind of time. If you're 3 years old now and watching league with dad,
right,
you got about 15 years before you can play pro.
Right.
But yeah, so Logan, I'm interested from your experiences as that player in the high school program. What are your comments or additions to what needs to change or be improved on? Kind of just bring high school esports to that next level, whether it's closer to national or at that national level.
So kind of what Mr. Witt was saying, it's this stigma that a lot of people have against it. As a player, I'd come into school wearing my jersey and people are like, that's not a sport. And I'm like, well, I'm having a good time regardless. And I think part of it, though, is because I also run another club at school called ETC. We get a bunch of random kids. We all play games. We all do fun stuff together. But one big thing that kids had an issue with is, oh, I need to have a console to play, so I can't join your team because, I can't play from home. And I think some schools, once this gained some traction, I think, we were fortunate enough. We have a gaming lounge that let us in, all of our USD. We could play down there together, have a good time together. I know Bayport has a whole arena now for esports and stuff like that. But I feel like once it gains some traction and maybe we get a little more funding or something like that, some PCs for school just to get going, because I know a couple schools have some, laptops and stuff like that, but there's lots of issues with the district allowing us to use like their Wi-Fi for our gaming and stuff like that, because there's little issues all around.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there needs to be a more accessible platform as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of school districts do not have the option of amazing internet and a gaming lounge and laptops. And I feel like if there was a way to reach out and like GoFundMe in a sense to help get these schools programs they need, because once you see like, hey, I have 10 gaming laptops, I need 10 players to play it,
Mm-hmm.
I think people will be more like, hey, I could play on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had a lot of friends who'd say like, oh, I'm not joining the team next year because I don't have my Switch at home.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need your Switch. We will, come on, just come down and play with us, and you can borrow ours. We'll practice together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing a lot of students are afraid of, other students. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think, as you know, obviously once it's safe with the current pandemic, once we can get back into the LAN setting, it's so important, because it's important for the players to have that platform of like,
Right.
hey, I actually have a good PC, right? Even if they have a PC at home, it might not be the best. It might just be a simple desktop that really can't run these games at the level that they need to be run at, so you can compete in them. And then also, from the parent side, it's going to a place and seeing your kid interact, in that physical sense with, the player next to them and left and right, and really see those teamwork and the communication skills physically there is. So I think it's kind of like that level of validity that so many people need,
Right.
and just seeing someone, with a headset on at their desk in their room, just talking like, hey, mom, I'm talking to 5 or 6 people and we're playing this great game. But like seeing that versus in an arena or at like
Right.
your gaming lounge at school is, I think, that next level of validity that really kind of starts to snowball, and parents like, oh, this is awesome. Like my kid, it really is. I see my kid getting so much out of it. And then also for the students to be like, hey, they're doing something really fun over there. I'm going to go see what that's about.
Right.
And I think brings that next level of engagement from both the students and the parents as well. So absolutely agree there. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. I'll wrap up with one last question. Real short is, what is your number one piece of advice for students in the high school space to either get involved or kind of bring their performance to the next level in both of your experiences? What is that one piece of advice that could really help them get to their next personal level, whether that's just joining or, maybe going and getting recruited by a college and playing at that next level? And I'll let Logan go ahead and go first from the player perspective, and then we'll wrap up with you, Travis.
So as a player perspective, you just keep going, have fun. Even if you aren't mechanically good at the game, have fun with it. Have fun with your friends, make new friends, and just have a good sense. Don't let it if you lose a game, don't let it let you down.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to keep playing and have a good time with it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, I would say, for the kids who aren't in our program yet, it's you got to give yourself a chance. You got to try. As scary as the situation might seem, anybody who runs an esports program wants to have you there. Anyone who has a team wants you to be a part of their team. Esports shouldn't be something that leaves people out. It should be something that brings everybody in. No matter the differences that each individual has, you're part of the team. And crossing over that barrier to get to that, that's your step one. You got to try. And then for people who are part of a team, you can't be afraid of success. I think a lot of our kids have, they're given opportunities that they just don't know what to do with, because it's, maybe it wasn't something they expected or something that they, were trying to get. But when after you're done playing in a high school program and you're starting to get, calls from colleges and college coaches are asking about you, and, the Twitter space is blowing up because you have that opportunity, you can't be afraid of trying that. And I think that's what we've seen, is that a lot of our kids who are definitely capable to play at the next level, just they don't know about it. In football, you talk about playing college football since you're 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We never talk about, can you play esports at the next level?
Mm-hmm.
Can you transition this into something else? Something in the realm of esports. So, again, it's try it. You can't be afraid, to give yourself that opportunity, because we haven't had a kid fail yet. And I think anybody can say that is esports is unique in the fact that everybody's welcome and everybody's going to have the opportunity to succeed in some fashion, whether that's in the game or in the activities surrounding the game.
Exactly. That another common theme that we've been talking about so much is that there's always a place. You don't have to be the best of the best of the best. Go get involved, figure out what you like to do, whether that's, casting or being a tournament organizer or game design, whatever it is. figure out what that is that makes you tick, and then, pursue it, right? Use that ambition, use that passion, use the dedication, and, achieve what you want to achieve and what makes you happy at the end of the day. Absolutely. Unfortunately, great conversation with the both of you. Absolutely love doing these podcasts. They are the highlight of my day for sure, especially on this Monday. But we are out of time. Thank you both for taking the time to sit down with me and discuss high school esports. Real quick, Travis, go ahead, plug your program, plug your school. Tell us where we can keep up on social media or website or anything if anyone's interested in keeping up with how well y'all are doing up there in Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely. So our whole our Twitter is at Park Panther Esports. You can also follow RUSD Esports to get everybody in the district, which we have 5 teams, all right here in Racine. In the county, we have 9 teams, so we're really kind of the hotspot for esports in Wisconsin. I'm at Coach_WHITT if you want to follow me. I love getting into discourse about esports and all that on Twitter. And coming soon, we'll be putting all of our streams up there, whether it's a casual play to get everybody as part of the community or our competition.
Yep, absolutely. Everyone out there, stay up to date. A lot of great stuff going up there. Like he said, that vibrant community is very vibrant, to say the least. And, very just great to see that kind of expansive community expand so rapidly. And I can't wait to see what comes to fruition in the future, whatever the future may hold with or without COVID, who knows.
Yeah.
But once again, thank you, both of you, for sitting down with me today. To all the viewers and listeners, thanks for staying the entire time. Stay healthy and stay happy out there with the current pandemic going on. Make sure you take care of yourself and your loved ones. And ultimately, stay plugged in.